and welcome to the My Broadband 2020 Cloud Conference. It's done virtually. This is the way of the world at the moment. This is the new way of doing things. And it's a great pleasure to welcome the Senior Provider Manager at VMware Sub-Saharan Africa, Dave Funnell, who is joining us here at the Cloud Conference, all virtually. Dave, firstly, greetings to you. How are you doing? It's a strange world we're living in 2020, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. And thankfully I'm healthy, and I hope everyone that's watching this is healthy at the moment as well, and their families also. Certainly a lot of changes, and I think it just shows that IT can help us adapt.
Well, listen, VMware is one of those companies that is that was ready for any kind of eventuality, and this, especially that's happened in the last 6 or so months leading up to this incredible lockdown that we've seen around the world and continue to see. Tell us about operationally, how has VMware operated since the lockdown started globally and in South Africa?
Yes, so VMware was actually very proactive around the well-being of our employees. I think we have great leadership there. I think everyone knows what a great leader Pat Gelsinger is. And we were shutting down offices prior to lockdowns in the various geos. So certainly we were locked out of our office before it was mandated by the government here. And it certainly, from the majority of people, I believe, it wasn't too severe an adjustment from a work perspective. Mm-hmm. We were already mobilized as a workforce who already dealt with people in other geos via, Zoom, Teams, etc. So from that perspective, it was quite seamless. I think we had connectivity at home. We were all on laptops. We all had access these applications via secure VPN. So productivity has carried on much as it should or would have been previously.
Amazing. Now, every CEO, every person I speak to in the ICT sector tell you that, just prior to March, what seemed impossible became possible. If it wasn't for the cloud infrastructure that we have globally at the moment, I think that we'd be in massive trouble from a business continuity point of view. How have your clients adapted to this? Since the COVID-19 pandemic really took hold globally, has it accelerated the journey to the cloud? Are you seeing a lot more companies fast-tracking and accelerating their plans to move to the cloud, and the ones that were already in the cloud, I'm sure, increased their presence even more?
Yeah, I think there's different stages to the response, Aki. I mean, the first one was almost a business continuity response. I was on a call a month or so back, and CIO of that organization, all their employees had been office or branch-based. They had to go out, acquire a lot of laptops. They had to really reactively mobilize their workforce. And we were able to do that because the technologies are there, right? But was that strategically, had they been in a good position? Potentially not, because they hadn't foreseen this sort of eventuality. Now, I don't think any of us had foreseen something quite so dramatic, but they really hadn't empowered most of their workforce previously. So that first stage, I believe, was like a reactive business continuity stage. Now organizations have to consolidate. They have to see, well, how do we move forward? How do we actually stay competitive in an environment that is very, very different? I mean, we can't delude ourselves. It's going to be an incredibly tough economic 18 months ahead. So businesses have to become more agile. They are going to have to bring product to market faster, and they're going to have to do all that while managing cost. And of course, a cloud or cloud operating model can be a great enabler there. If you look at the definitions, the NIST definitions of cloud, obviously being OpEx based, being consumptive based, on consuming services, allows you to manage liquidity far, far better. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be king. The idea of embarking on very large CapEx projects, I believe, will be anathema to most companies out there. So how can they do this? How can they accelerate getting to that business, changing how they engage with their clients, while at the same time managing the business as a good custodian? And cloud and the cloud operating model has to be absolutely key to that.
Well, you talk about Pat Gelsinger, and I was at the conference last year in Las Vegas. It feels like such a distant memory. I was supposed to be again this year, but it's basically been postponed and cancelled because of COVID. But on stage, you had Michael Dell, Pat Gelsinger, and Satya Nadella of Microsoft announcing this massive announcement. And I thought to myself, well, this is the solidification of all of these things that you are actually talking about, and VMware being at the forefront of this. I'd like you to just delve in a little bit deeper in terms of VM's role in offering these cloud services and how you're helping cloud service providers. How does it all come together? I mean, the fact that you're now working together with Microsoft is massive in itself in terms of when you look at Azure, for example. But, VMware sits at the top of all this. How are you guys helping cloud providers?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a very strange world, isn't it? If I was to talk to you 4 years ago, Aki, all the public cloud providers were going to be our enemies. They were the competition. As VMware, we just were looking to sell licenses to clients. And we're moving into this world, and it's all about the application development. We sit here today, I think there's something like 335 million applications in the world. Within 5 years, they'll be approaching 800 million applications.
Wow.
The number of developers is going up absolutely exponentially. Again, 5 years, 10 years ago, I think it was 5 million developers. It's now 13.5 million. How many developers will we need in the future for the applications that are required? And it comes down to the cloud. And obviously, we look at the public cloud hyperscalers. What a fantastic platform for doing a lot of this cloud native application development on. When I'm privileged enough to share a platform with the representatives for these hyperscalers, very often comes back to one thing. You can go in with a credit card, spin up some virtual machines, connect to the services that they provide, for artificial intelligence, machine learning and the like, and spin up an application very, very quickly. But there's also those legacy applications out there as well. And there's other considerations to take care of. It's not just about spinning up the application. You've got to be able to protect that application, manage the data securely, and there's new data breaches every day. And these legacy applications, these systems of record that we've built the business on, well, they're not going away. I think Gartner said that in 5 years' time, 90% of those applications will not have been changed. They won't have been refactored for any positive business benefit. So how do you run those while at the same time taking advantage of speeding up all the new application development you have to do as a business? And that's really where private cloud comes into play, right? IT in-house has often got a lot of problems. It's complex, it can be viewed as inefficient, it can be slow, and very often there are still a lot of risks inherent in how it is managed with this sort of bolt-on security posture. So if you can move those applications into a cloud operating model with all those benefits that the cloud has, plus security and plus data protection, what a fantastic world. You might almost think of it as a safe harbor.
Yes, exactly.
And because it's all on VMware, you can move quickly, successfully, and predictably. And that is why all the hyperscalers are working with us. So you mentioned Microsoft, Aki. Obviously, we've been working with AWS for a number of years.
Absolutely.
But it's all Ali Cloud in the Far East. It is Google Compute Platform with VMware. It is IBM we've had a relationship with for a long time. And it is also, believe it or not, Oracle are building bare metal VMware private clouds or VMware private clouds on bare metal adjacent to their hyperscaler public cloud. Now, why are they all doing that? Well, it is that speed of migration, because actually those legacy applications are gradually going to become less and less of the environment as the new cloud native apps grow. So, but you still need to run those legacy applications. They're not going away. As we move to systems of engagement, then systems of intelligence and automation, they're still going to be built on this foundation. So how does that help our partners, our cloud providers? Well, they can actually deliver exactly the same solutions to the market, but very often on a multi-tenanted self-service platform or a single-tenant private cloud. They can do it in a particular niche in the market. They can definitely do it with localization and in a RAN-based cost structure. So they have a lot of advantages for delivering the same solution that we're working with the public hyperscalers about. So we're giving our customers that freedom of choice. And because you can mobilize those workloads between the different clouds so quickly, if you decide that one day I want to be in this private cloud and then the next day I want to move it back on-prem or I want to move it to a different provider, they can do that relatively seamlessly because it's the same platform the same tools for management, the same security posture, the same networking policies apply across everything. So I think there's an awful lot of opportunity there for partners of VMware that are looking to transform the services they deliver to customers. How do you get away from this traditional model of selling infrastructure and selling software onto the infrastructure?
Absolutely.
How selling cloud services with margin? And certainly you can become either a cloud builder, where you build it on your own infrastructure and deliver the VMware cloud provider platform, or you can become an asset light provider, maybe resell VMware cloud on AWS, white label it with additional services, or work with an additional provider. Now that's when we're talking about infrastructure.
Yeah.
But the way we're going to, having said it's complex on premise, in many ways it's going to become even more complex as organizations, clients accelerate their adoption of the public hyperscalers.
And I guess
We are going to... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Dave, and I guess that's why it's so important for your cloud providers to become VM Cloud verified, to get that particular status, just to be able to do all of this that you're talking about. I think that's very important.
Yeah, look, it is. And really that verified status is to provide confidence to our customers. Our customers generally rely on VMware on-premise. They have invested significant amounts of money over the years, both in obviously licenses, but maybe more importantly in staffing and the experience the staff have. So that when they move to the cloud and they want to move to a VMware-based cloud, I guess if you look at the hyperscalers, inherently, they carry a lot of weight in the market. But if you're a localized provider, how does a client know that what you're delivering is validated by VMware? And that's where VMware Cloud Verified comes into play.
Okay.
There is certified reference design. It's the latest VMware software-defined data center components in the stack. So software-defined storage, compute, and networking. And if you're going to run the latest VMware versions, obviously you're going to be running them on later hardware editions as well, or more recent hardware editions, modern hardware. So it gives the client that security to know that they're going onto a platform that has VMware stamp and isn't just hopefully any fly-by-night.
Yeah, but Dave, it's a complicated world out there. Hey? You talk about the cloud. There's a private cloud, there's a public cloud, there's a hybrid cloud. Just can you explain briefly the differences with the different models, and where are you seeing the growth? And I kind of get a sense that it's happening in the hybrid space, but can you just break that down for us, please?
Yeah, so we see 90% of organizations will probably end up with a hybrid cloud infrastructure. But what do we mean by that? Haki, we both know IT is full of sort of acronyms and trends hitched to. So, as I said right at the beginning, the public cloud is amazing, you know, for developing a lot of these new apps on, for leveraging their services. And it's about those apps again. The app development team are going to want to develop apps in the right platform for those applications.
Right.
And that means, even though we read in the papers very regularly or the press releases that XYZ organization has a strategic relationship with a particular hypervisor, the reality is, a hyperscaler. The reality is that they're going to consume from 2, maybe 3 different public cloud providers because there are services that that application requires at that time. Additional to that, we mentioned they've got these existing applications they need to run. They want to focus their effort on too much. So private cloud, if you think about that safe harbor concept, what are you looking for? You're looking to put them somewhere where they can run efficiently, be managed at a lower cost. You've got control over those consumption of the infrastructure for those applications. When we look at a public cloud, that's really where we're talking about differentiation, innovation, time to market, and scale. So private cloud is fulfilling different requirements the majority of the time to public cloud. But what you can do with private cloud is obviously consume on absolutely the same cloud operating model that you're on public cloud, on demand, consumptive based, in any particular location you want those resources to reside, with those additional benefits potentially around security and data governance. And I think that becomes quite important when we look in Sub-Saharan Africa and South Africa, some industries have much stricter regulations around the governance of data. So the fact that they can stand up, a private cloud for running those applications really gives them the best of every world. So yes, it will be complex, but I think as
it's all about
VMware,
flexibility.
It was choice and freedom. And we can help our customers there. And that's again where we're helping our partners, because in this hybrid multi-cloud world, you want to remove that complexity if you can. So can you have a common operating model across all these environments? So the first thing we see is solutions. VMware has Cloud Health, right? The leading cost optimization solution, because you want to get the maximum benefits at the lowest cost. You don't want to be paying too much for the resources you're consuming. This is also a way for a partner to be delivering services, because most clients, again, they don't want to be owning software. They want to consume the benefit of that software. That's why they used to buy software in the first place, right? Operations management. And so we're building out that suite of products which can manage across this hybrid multi-cloud world, whether we're talking cost optimization, security. We acquired Carbon Black more recently, and we're seeing great uptake in Black again, next generation security software. Performance management, we have the whole Tanzu portfolio coming to market to manage in Kubernetes environments, so that all this new app development that's going to take place, you can build, run, and manage those applications on whatever platform that you decide as a customer to run those applications on. And Kubernetes brings fantastic benefits for application development, but also that mobilization of applications. So now, where we talk about the more traditional VMs, those legacy applications, they're not so easy to refactor into the hyperscalers. And you can get very, very different results to those you expected. In fact, 35% of those type of migration are repatriated because they don't run as well or as intended where they went. And it's always around performance, security, and cost. Kubernetes is different. Kubernetes, you will have that single platform for running those applications, whether you want to run them in GCP, AWS, Azure, or in a VMware private cloud. It becomes totally the choice of the customer and the ease of mobilization. But you need to be able to manage them. And that's really like the next stage development that VMware is going through now. It's how to manage and deliver that consistent platform for our customers to consume.
Well, it's amazing listening to you and the flexibility that VMware brings to your customers. It's almost like you're offering a bouquet of flowers, not just a specific flower. You can do any kind of arrangement you want with those flowers, the way it suits you and the environment that you're working in. It's great to hear that flexibility and the ease of migrating to the cloud as well. Many people will ask, of course, the benefits of, what are those benefits of cloud application development? Can you run through those for us?
Yeah, and I think if we go right back to the beginning, liquidity is going to be key for organizations. Yeah. I read more recently with COVID, 68% of businesses were going to be managing cash flow even more tightly. So the first thing is that cloud operating model, is consumptive based. You should be paying only for what you're using from an infrastructural platform basis. Kubernetes becomes an amazing platform for developing those applications on that continuous, CI/CD, continuous deploying into production. So that time to market for new application development is speeded up dramatically, but also the failure rates are reduced. It's much from code into production. It's more successful as you move into production. I say the public cloud hyperscalers also provide, wonderful services to link into around machine learning or AI, big data analytics. And for some applications, that's going to be very, very appropriate. We have to somehow enable our companies, our customers, to deliver applications to market at an exponentially faster rate. And this is cloud native development with Kubernetes is a fantastic way to enable that.
Which areas are you seeing the biggest adoption with cloud native apps, for example? Is it something that's really growing exponentially? Are you seeing specific areas that are outshining others, for example?
That's a good question, right? Yeah, at the moment, as we sit here today, the vast majority of applications are more traditional, monolithic applications, that
Yeah.
web front end, application middleware and a database backend. But there is going to be a shift. But is it going to be changing all these existing applications to cloud native apps? No, it's not. As I said earlier, Gartner see 90% of applications existing today staying in their current form. So it's where the app is going. And of course, over 90% of the apps in development today will be cloud native applications. It makes a lot of sense for all the reasons we spoke about. At some point in the near future, between now and 2025, maybe it'll be 22, 23, who knows, there'll be that inflection point where they become the majority. But there's still, as I mentioned earlier, those legacy apps today.
Yes.
And that's the challenge for organization, is to keep managing those. And that's why, again, third time, I'm going to mention that safe harbor idea, because let someone else look after those applications. Keep the costs down, let them focus on what they're good at, VMware Cloud Verified Partner, for instance. You then as a business can really focus on this new application development. Make your developers more productive, because they're also, I believe, about 35% more productive developing on a Kubernetes platforms and more traditional ways of developing apps. So, it's a brave new world out there, and clients, customers have to free up resources to take advantage of that. And they do that with a cloud operating model. Understanding which sort of cloud they should be developing on or placing existing applications on is going to be key, because in a way, the more mature they can be about that, the greater the benefits they can garner for their business.
Absolutely fascinating, Dave. I'm just listening to you talking, and there's just so many things going through my mind, and this acceleration that's happened in the last few months. But if I had to say to you, Dave, put on your futuristic hat and let's look forward into this cloud business. It must be so difficult to predict, but you kind of do have a sense, and it's, you have your finger on the pulse. There's no doubt about it. Where do you see the cloud business and adoption going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, at the moment, even with COVID, 92% of organizations are accelerating their adoption of cloud. It is going to be massive. We're seeing compound annual growth rates of public cloud in excess of 20%. Something that might surprise you and certainly the audience is that actually research shows private cloud will grow at a CAGR of 30% per annum to 2020. Wow. So it is this maturing of the world, right? It is, how are you going to consume resources in IT? And it has to be, I know saying it's like a utility is a bit of a cliche, but the old ways of organizations acquiring IT have changed and will change forever. But as VMware, even though we're seeing, and I think we're embracing this journey to the cloud, and I hate that because it's not really a destination cloud, it's more an operating model that an organization will take on board. We're of course now seeing this huge growth in the edge. The Internet of Things, much information will be generated at the edge. It will have to be processed at the edge. So we're bringing solutions to market as well to start dealing with that. So we talk a lot about SD-WAN for optimizing that connectivity, if you like, between those edge devices and the clouds where data will finally end up. We're working with our partners around delivering fully managed, software-defined data centers, private clouds at the edge, because organizations won't be able to manage all this themselves. They need help. So, that's the greatest thing about being at VMware. We seem to be totally in step with where the market is going today. In many instances, ahead of the market. I've been using slides in my presentations for a couple of years, talking around the fact that maybe by 2030, 52% of workloads will be in the public cloud hyperscalers. 32% will be in public cloud, and the rest will still be traditional IT that's there. Now, when I first started using those slides, I think people were, oh no, everything's going to go to the public cloud. That's the trend. Why would it not go to the public cloud? But what we're seeing is the fact, I say, it is a more nuanced word. I don't want to say more complex, more nuanced. And there is this role for the private cloud, say 30% growth year on year currently, and this role for the public cloud, which is also growing at huge growth rates. And at the same time, organizations have to keep their eye on the edge. And there'll be more data at the edge than there will be in these central clouds repositories within a few years as well.
Dave Funnell, it's been absolutely fascinating listening to you, and I'm astonished at the growth and the forecasts going forward. But what an exciting world we're living in. I thank you so much for your time. Dave Funnell is the Senior Cloud Provider Provider Manager at VMware Sub-Saharan Africa. Dave, thank you so much for your time and your insights. We wish you well and every success in the future, and may those growth points continue, which they certainly are appearing to do so. Thank you for your time, Dave Funnell.
Thank you, Aki, and thank you everyone for tuning in today. I hope they found the session of value, and please feel free to reach out if they want further information.